So you want to take the SAT. Hi, my name is Kutemwa Masafwa and I am an international student at Xavier University of Louisiana in New Orleans. Welcome to US application. So I wrote the SAT more than once and I worked as an SAT tutor for over a year, and the last time I wrote the SAT was after I had tutored it for some time, and in having to explain it, break it down for other people, I got to see the deeper side of the SAT, how important it is to essentially understand what the exam is, what it wants you to do, and there was a change in mentality that I had to make, and after that my score was boosted by so much. So I just want to take you through the process. I know that there are very good books out there, very good content, and there's a lot of material that you can use, but this channel will mostly be focused on realistic advice, just essentially making you understand what the questions entail and what you need to do. So this is just the first video in a sequence, so if you're new here, make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss out on the rest of the videos. So today we'll just be breaking down the SAT generally. I'll be telling you just the strategies that you need to use in general and just what every section is about. So we have 4 sections. There's the reading section, the writing section, the math no calculator section, and the math calculator section. And these sections are very different from each other, and it's important that you invest time in each and every section, come up with your strategies, understand the content that is needed, and so on. So you have the reading section, which is 65 minutes long, and it has 5 passages and 52 questions. So you have to answer these questions and read these passages in that amount of time. And let me just say right now that time is not enough. It's really not enough. You really have to come up with a strategy that will help you to handle all these passages in that time, and we will cover that. So you need a strategy for reading the passages, and you also need a strategy for handling the types of questions. These are not normal comprehension questions that you would meet on a normal test. They are categories of questions, and they really test specific aspects of the passage. So it's important that you understand the kinds of questions that come on the reading section, because in understanding what the questions want, you'll be able to get that information from the passage. So that's the reading section, essentially comprehension. Then you have the writing section, which is a grammar test. So you have passages as well, but then you have underlined sections, and you'll be required to make corrections in terms of punctuation and word choice, relevance, and different things like that. But it's essentially a grammar test. So for this one, you just need to know the rules. That's it. Once you know the rules, you'll be able to tell what the differences are. And I want to say that there are some rules that are just for the SAT. And if you've already gone through the content, you know what I'm talking about. There are some rules that you really need to understand for you to handle these. So it's important that you know all the grammar rules and you practice as much as possible. And then we have the math sections. There is no calculator and calculator. The topics that the questions come from are essentially the same for both the calculator and the no calculator section. One difference, obviously. So most of the questions on both sections are multiple choice, and then you have brief sections at the end of each that are not multiple choice. So the topics that come in the math section are not complicated. You most likely know all of them from high school. The thing about the SAT is just that the time is limited. So mostly you concentrate on coming up with strategies to help you solve questions faster. I would say the main thing that's being tested in the math section is you being able to outsmart the questions, coming up, finding those loopholes that are there that will help you to not have to solve the question entirely. So that's the SAT. It's just reading, writing, and math. So as we begin to go through this series, I want to emphasize that practice is everything. You can know the content. I mean, I've taught people before, I have written the SAT before. You can know the content very well, but if you don't practice and you don't come up with good strategy, then that knowledge is going to be useless. So it's important that you really practice as much as possible. What I used to do was I would have a test day during the week. My day was Friday, so I would go through an entire test every single Friday. And if I'm not doing that, then every single day I would have just a small section of practice. So I wouldn't go through an entire paper just because that takes a long time, and I was still trying to go through the content and so on. So I would go through just maybe one reading passage. I said every paper has 5 reading passages. So I'll just pick one passage, go through it, answer the questions, and then I would focus on the mistakes that I made and try to see where I went wrong. Maybe I didn't understand what the question was asking, maybe I didn't understand the passage, and so on. And I did the same for writing. I would just pick one passage, go through everything and see, okay, did I forget what the use of a comma is? Maybe I didn't really understand what the question was asking. And then for math, I would pick either calculator or no calculator. So the point is just make your own make a good schedule that will allow you to practice very much and make sure that you also know the content. So if you're starting out, your aim should be to complete the syllabus as soon as you can. I mean, go through the content very fast and then focus on practice, because practice is what's going to cement everything that you're going through. And the SAT is a standardized test. This means that the way the papers come is the same every single year, so you have to watch out in terms of the practice materials that you use. I would recommend using the College Board official practice tests, which you can find on their website, collegeboard.org. There are 10 practice tests, and apart from you being able to get the actual question papers, you can actually get the answer key. That's the scoring board and everything, and you can also get an explanation for every single answer, and I believe that's a very good resource. And if you can get your hands on an actual SAT paper, that would be even better. So just make sure that you're using materials that are relevant, you're using materials that are actually realistic, because the way that the questions are phrased, is standard across the years. And if you look at different kinds of papers, even the official practice tests, you'll notice that the language used in the questions is the same, and just the general form of the passages is also the same. So you do yourself a favor making yourself get used to the standard way that the papers come. So if you want to make the best use of these videos or this series, I suggest that you use them as revision. What I mean is, make sure that before you actually watch a video on a certain topic, make sure that you've already gone through it and you write down the key points or whatever your study method is, and then use this as revision, because we'll mostly, as I said, be looking at the realistic aspect of it, just making sure that you understand what the question is essentially asking, and then you being able to use the clues that you have in order to find your answer. And then you'll also be looking at actual SAT papers, I mean the official College Board practice tests, and just like seeing how to use the information to actually answer the question. So if you are new here, don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss out on the rest of the videos, and make sure you do like and leave a comment below and let me know if you found this video helpful. Thank you so much for watching.